Welcome back to another Acceptable Casualties battle report. Today we have 1,500 points of the Strelkovy Battalion against the SS Panzerkampfgruppe. It's going to be a Totenkopf. Be doing breakthrough. Be back in a second for the lists and then go over deployment. So here we have our 1,500 points of Strelkovy. Starting down here, we have our 1IC, 2IC, and Battalion Commissar. Just above them, we have two Strelkovy companies. Each one is identical. They have the SMG upgrade for the one platoon, and then they have the Maxim machine guns commissars added to it, as well as sappers and the 45 millimeters added from the command team upgrades. Over here we have 4 of the ZIS-3 guns, just the anti-tank, the tank destruction companies, not the field guns. Back here we have mortars with observers, and over there we have some ISU 122s. Altogether, 1,500 points on the nose. We'll be back in a second to go over the Totenkopf list. So here we have our 1,500 points of the SS Panzerkampfgruppe. Up here we have our 1IC and 2IC, both in Panzer IVs. The 1IC got the 2-up motivation for his Tiger A skill, since it's a Totenkopf list. Down here we have 3 more Panzer IVs. Just over here we have 4 Stugs. Down here we have the Nebelwerfers with Observer. We have some Panzer Grenadiers and half-tracks. Down here we have some flak tracks. Well, just they're in the armored trucks. And we also have the armored cannon platoon as well. So altogether, 1,500 points, SS Totenkopf. We'll be back in a second for deployment, and see you guys in a flash. So we are back for deployment. I'm going to go over the Soviets' defense first, and then we'll work our way over to the Germans. We decided to take both of these corners over here for our defensive breakthrough. Vin put his objectives over on that opposite table edge, and his deployment zone is back over there. For our defense, we set our ZIS guns up over here to get kind of a clear range of fire across those crossroads, and then defend against the buildings over here as well. We set up one of our Strelkovy companies right here. Probably going to hold here for a little bit and make a push up there and try to get in there to defend those objectives for Vin's reserves, which come in off of that table edge on that side. Back over here, we set up another Strelkovy company right here. They're using the hotel here with about, 8 to 10 bases in there. I forgot what I put in there. And then they have the rest of their troops flanked along the backyard into that forest over there, waiting to see how the defense on this side goes, and then possibly pushing over and defending those objectives there as well later in the game. We put our mortars up over here to kind of put a little bit of pressure on Vin's forces that are on the table now, and then maybe give some support fire later in the game. And we also set up our ISU 152s here along the hedges to give a little heat to Vin's tanks that are going to be pushing across this road and across the southern part of the map. That's pretty much our deployment for the Soviets. So that's what we're looking at right now. Down here for the Germans, Vin decided to just play 3 of his platoons right now on the table. So he put his Nebelwerfers in the back corner. He brought his 2IC and the Panzer IV hidden here behind the hill, just in case things go wrong. He needs to do a command test. He brought his 4 Stugs over here, most likely going to make a push up over there to get away from those ISU 152s. His observers on top here, and then he has the armored cannon platoon sitting right here. Probably going to try to keep those ISU 152s occupied as well. In reserves, Vin decided to keep his 1IC and Panzer IVs, his Panzer Grenadiers, and his flak tracks in delayed reserve so they can come off that table edge a little bit later in the game. So overall, that's our deployment. We'll be back in a second for the top of term 1 for the SS Totenkopf. So we are back for top of German turn 1. Vin decided to move his cannon platoon up to along the bridge to kind of get a little bit of cover. He fired his Nebelwerfers down here to get smoke on those ISU 152s. Other movement, he decided to throw those Stugs over here and try to shimmy them up along the river. Vin also did a stormtrooper move, so that was added into this movement as well. In the shooting phase, the Stugs fired a couple cannon shots, machine gun shots over the ZIS guns. They were able to kill the officer in the group, and they ended up bouncing one off of one of the ZIS 3s. They said Nebelwerfer shot over here, and that's all the firing that they had for the Germans in the top of turn 1. So we'll be back in a second for Strelkovy, bottom 1. So we are back for the bottom of turn 1 for the Strelkovy Battalion. In the movement phase up here, we just pulled back those ISU 152s to get out of the way of the smoke. We started to push that entire infantry mob up around there to get a defensive position for those objectives right there. We did shimmy up the 45 millimeter. He's still in coherency with some of the guys that are in the hotel over there. In the shooting phase, starting up here with the mortars, we dropped a bombardment down here in the corner on the Nebelwerfers. We were able to get a hit and a pin. We weren't able to dig the guy out, though we failed our firepower. For the 45 millimeter right down here, we fired one shot after we moved over here at the armored cannon platoon, and we missed our shot. Down here with the Ziz guns, things went a little bit better for us. We had 8 shots. We ended up hitting on 5 of them, and we got 2 bales and an explosion on the Stug. So overall, pretty good round of shooting. I don't think it's really going to matter much because Vin has protected ammo, so those guys are probably going to jump back in. But we'll be back in a second for the top of turn 2 for the Germans. Be back in a flash. So we are back for top of turn 2 for the Germans. In the movement phase, Vin unpinned his Nebelwerfers in the back over here, and he was able to get his Stugs back in over here. I think I only needed 1 reroll, so it was pretty good dice for him. In movement, they moved up to the hedges over there, positioned themselves, potentially maybe make an assault next turn on that side. And over here, the armored cannon platoon, one had to turn and shimmy his way to get an angle to shoot down the street over there. In the shooting phase, the armored cannon platoon, they fired a couple shots and were able to take out my 45 sitting in the middle of the road. Down here, the Stugs fired their 3 cannon shots and 3 machine gun shots. Somehow I was able to make 2 5-up saves down Vin's cannon hits, so they ended up bouncing off. And then the machine guns, failed 1 or 2 of them, and Vin wasn't able to get any penetration through those gun shields. For the Nebelwerfers, they fired a bombardment up here onto these guys running away. They had, 8 hits? Right, you had a chance to get, you had 5 out of 8 hits. Yeah, and Vin ended up killing off 2 of my rifle bases off of that and pinning the unit. So overall, pretty decent turn, I guess, for me as far as saving my bacon. But, we'll see if those dice are going to hold up for the rest of the game. So we'll be back in a second for bottom of turn 2 for the Soviets. So we are back for the bottom of turn 2 for the Soviets. This was not the best of turns. We failed to unpin with all of our rerolls, commissar checks, all that goodness down there. So that platoon, they stayed pinned down there. We shimmied our ISU 152s around there. If you take a look here, we got one of the gun barrels. Can I get a shot in there? I don't know if I can or can't. Well, whatever, you can kind of see it. I got one of the gun barrels going through there, and then another one along the side of the house in line to take shots. Some of the Stugs down there. We opted not to move anything else over here. Also failed to unpin our Ziz guns. In the shooting phase, we completely biffed with the Ziz guns shooting over here at the Stugs. We whiffed with the 152s rolling down here shooting as well. We used our bombardment up there to try to kill the observer sitting on top of the hill, make life a little worse for Vin's Nebelwerfers. We got the hit. Vin made his 5-up save, so he ended up living to fight another day. Like I said, overall, pretty crappy turn for the Soviets. I think we're going to end up paying for it right here. Top turn 3. Vin has his delayed reserve roll coming in as well, so I'll be back in a flash. So we are back for top of turn 3 for the Germans. Vin did not get any reserves in this turn. He failed to unpin his observer on top of the hill over here, and that was the only thing he had to do for that. As far as movement goes, he swung his armored cannon platoon around here to get better shots on the mortar team. The 2IC Nebelwerfer still stayed still, and he moved up his Stugs over here. We had bigger plans, but we'll go over that in a second. So in the shooting phase, the Nebelwerfers, when they needed them most to drop some smoke right there, Vin wasn't able to get the dice that he needed. So that might have foiled some plans here. The armored car platoon over here fired a couple cannon shots down there. Were able to kill one of the mortar bases. Down here, the Stugs fired 6 cannon shots, 3 machine gun shots, and I made a couple saves and Vin failed his firepower. It was a mix of both of our dice, my great and your crap. And he was able to kill one of the Ziz guns. And that's pretty much all that happened in the shooting phase. So now we'll see if I can answer with the Ziz guns. I just got a clean alley right here to fire down with those ISU 152s. So we'll see if I can make that Nebelwerfer mistake pay off. I don't know. The way my dice are going, it'll be 50-50 this time. So we'll see. So we'll be back in a second for Soviets, bottom 3. So we are back for bottom of turn 3 for Soviets. Let's get into it. So movement phase, we emptied everybody out of the buildings over here. This platoon pushed up. We did everything at the double with them. We stayed still with the ISU 152s and didn't move with that platoon yet either. And we were able to unpin our Ziz guns over here as well as the platoon up there. In the shooting phase, like I said, we took a risk. We decided to push all those guys up there at the double, knowing that Vin has 2 dice for his reserves coming in over there. So if those Panzer Grenadiers come in or the flak tracks, these guys got the potential to get shredded pretty big, but we did it because we wanted to get those ISU 152s clean shot with their 5 up down here at the Stugs. And as you can see, we failed miserably with them. We biffed as well with the Ziz guns over here. Vin made both of his saves on the 2 of the hits that we got. We did fire a bombardment down here on the armored cannon platoon. We got 1 hit. Vin failed one of his saves, but we also failed our firepower on the 6 up. So overall, 2 pretty bad turns in a row. Hopefully Vin can return the favor and not get any reserves in coming up. We'll see how it goes. Be back in a second for top of turn 4 for the Germans. So we are back for top of turn 4 for the Germans. Once again, no reserves came in for Vin, but the rest of the turn went pretty good for him. The movement phase, I don't think anybody moved, right, Vin? No. Yeah, nobody moved. Oh, well, your 2IC did. He finally came out from behind the rock, the hill over there. Let's kind of get an angle down there. He fired 2 cannon shots because that squad went at the double up there. He hit 1, and I ended up making my 3-up save. Shooting down here, the Stugs finally just ripped a whole bunch of cannon shots into those Ziz guns, and they killed every one to a man. Also back there is that 2IC who was hanging out in the wheat fields, or the, I guess it'd be potato fields, just not doing anything, picking his nose. He's going to be worthless for the rest of the game. Smoke Nebelwerfers dropped on top of the IC 152s, so that's going to kind of hinder what I wanted to do with them next turn. And then over here, the armored cannon platoon down there, they fired a couple shots up here, killed 2 more mortar bases out of there. So those guys are kind of wavering, getting ready to take a morale test if they lose another person. Overall, pretty good turn for the Germans. We'll be back in a second for bottom turn 4 the Soviets. Hopefully we can get something going right for us before those reserves start rolling in. We are back for bottom of turn 4 for the Soviets. And it just keeps getting better and better. It really does. So we were able to get our ISU 152s around here in the movement phase, get them out of that smoke. We failed to dig in with this platoon over here. We decided to stay still with these guys here, waiting to maybe do a counter assault for that objective. I don't know. We haven't really decided what we're going to do over there. And I got on the ground over there with the mortars to try and keep those guys occupied and not get them killed so I lose another platoon. In the shooting phase, like I said, got on the ground there. The 152s, another turn of shooting and another turn of missing. So they have just been absolutely horrible this game. Hopefully they can turn it around and just get these Stugs out of here so we can focus then back up on this corner of the table. But yeah, overall, not a lot happening for the Soviets this turn. We back top of turn 5 for the Germans. They are guaranteed to get at least one of their platoons on the table, so we'll be back in a flash. So we are back for the top of turn 5 for the Germans. Vin had 2 of his reserves come in over on the flank over there. It was the Panzer IVs and the Panzer Grenadiers in the half tracks. In the movement phase, they came in off the table and they positioned themselves on the hills with the Panzer IVs, and the half tracks made their way to the hedges over there. Down here, the 2 armored cannon platoon, guys from the armored cannon platoon pushed all the way up to get some side shots on the ISU 152s, and the Stugs down here, they just shimmied around to get some shots on them as well as the 2IC. In the shooting phase, Vin dropped smoke up over there and fired a whole bunch of shots from the Stugs and the armored cannons and everything, and wasn't able to do anything to those guys. Over here, Vin ended up firing a bunch of machine gun fire for both those platoons into these guys, and I think he killed, what, 3 or 4 bases?
Yeah, 4.
All together. And then he attempted to do an assault with his half tracks. I only had 5 guys in firing range. I ended up getting 5 hits, and I was able to beat back the attack out of the half track. So that went surprisingly well. The only good dice roll I think I've had so far. But the way things look right now, I'm gonna have to get a little bit aggressive, make a push on these panzers and half tracks, and then maybe do something with those ISU 152s, or this game is going to be done relatively quickly. So we'll be back in a second for the bottom of turn 5 for the Soviets. So we are back for the bottom of turn 5 for the Soviets, and it was consistent. This is a consistent showing from the Soviets this game. So in the movement phase, we swung our ISU 152s around over there. The Strelkovy Battalion over here, we just kind of held our ground, didn't really do anything, and then we moved up this entire blob over here. In the shooting phase, we fired the 45 millimeter up at the Panzer IVs, and Vin ended up making 2 of the saves. He just needed to get a 2 up, and he was good, so he was all right on that. Over on this side, we got them not to fire anything. We just stayed concealed, gone to ground, all that jazz. We fired our mortars all the way over here, and we were able to get 1 bailout on one of the half tracks. Vin ended up passing his motivation later on to stay on the table. Down here, we swung our ISU 152s around, got a couple shots off over there on the Panzers, and we missed all of them again. So this was going to go into the top of turn 6. I am 5 inches out of the objective on this side, and I failed to get the assault off over here because Vin beat me back with 11 shots, and he needed 10 to take me out to cancel the assault. So it was going to go to top of turn 6. Vin's starting the turn with nobody contesting the objective right down here, so it's going to be a win for the Germans. We'll be back in a second to go over the end of the game recap, go over things that went right, things that went wrong, mostly things that went wrong, but we'll be back in a second to talk about it. So we are back for the end of the game recap. ISU 152s, you always treat me wrong. So when we had our deployment set up down here on this side, our thought process was obviously to get 1 Strelkovy blob on each side over here and really put the pressure on Vin to either swing around the outside with his units that he started on the table, or aggressively just try to punch up that roadway and just weather the storm. We set up our 152s over here to kind of force Vin to take his Stugs and whatever other tanks that he was going to put on the table, and force them to make their way over here to exactly where we wanted them to go, and then move them into the middle of the road exactly where we wanted to go, and then have it set up so we have the 152s and the Ziz guns over there, and just get him in just a crossfire. But unfortunately, through 5 rounds of shooting from our ISU 152s, which was 15 dice, I think we didn't get 1 single hit on a tank. And did we get a hit on an observer? We did hit your observer once, didn't we? No, we missed.
No, you hit. I got the 5 up.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. No, that was with the mortars.
Oh, that was
with the mortars. Yeah. So 15 shots from the ISU 152s throughout the game, and we did not get 1 hit on anything. So that was 300 and whatever points. I don't even want to think about it. It was just worthless. But yeah, everything went as far as how we wanted to go. Everything went, when we had set up our defense, and then got everything we wanted for deployment for the first couple turns. We just weren't able to capitalize on anything. I mean, the Ziz guns did pretty good for us, as far as stunting the assault over here from the Stugs and keeping them at bay for a couple turns. But ultimately we weren't able to capitalize on it. Down here, late game, I was really hoping that we were going to be able to get the assault off on those half tracks and get some decent support from those 152s on the Panzers, as well as from over here. I just kind of misjudged the distance on this platoon, getting them close enough to get in either assault or contest that objective over there. But like I said, I had to delay a lot of the stuff that I wanted to do because the 152s just weren't they weren't getting the job done over there. I think if they were able to take those Stugs off the table down here, I would have been able to swing them up and move the rest of my forces a little more aggressively to get back on those objectives. But since it didn't really work out like that, kind of had to keep them up here on the table and hold this first assaulting force at bay and hope Vin's reserves didn't work out, but they did work out pretty well on turn 5. Vin, overall, how do you think things worked out for you?
Pretty good, obviously. My main plan was to take the Stugs and come out to the middle, which ended up being exactly what you wanted.
Yeah, they worked out perfectly. Obviously, look how much carnage there was on the table.
Turned
what a
out
waste.
really well for me. But coming out over here, my main plan was to literally just knowing that they had a 5-up save, was to just take out the Zizguns like as fast as I could, and then just
work your way into that back line.
Work my way into the back line, and hopefully have the ISUs either follow behind me and just keep smoking them, or die. But once I came over here and realized that I wasn't going to take these guys out as quickly, a little nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
Sitting in front of ISUs for
for 3 rounds of fire. Yeah, I think it was like three rounds of fire going into those guys. Yeah, it was absolutely terrible.
Yeah, that was terrifying.
I mean, you even set me up too because you missed the Nebelwerfer smoke. Ended up. I mean, I had just clear ranges. I mean, everything was just sitting there waiting for me to take it, and I wasn't able to get the dice to go my way. So it was that was pretty heartbreaking.
I was very shocked. I think this is the first game that we've played so far where I've had way less casualties.
Yeah, you only had, what did you lose? You lost 1 tank.
1 tank, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's how terrible my dice were this game. It was pretty bad. And like I said, I mean,
it was a 1s and 2s kind of game for us.
Yeah, it wasn't too hot. And then, having the Panzers and the half tracks both come in at the same time, that was pretty nice for you. Able to kind of really hold that back edge of the table down with 2 pretty solid units and kind of just put me in a really bad position. But I think overall it was a fun game. Obviously things didn't go that well, but I think overall you played it pretty good though. Like I said, I think holding half your platoons off in reserve and being patient with it it paid off this game really well, because like I said, I mean, I left the door wide open with some bad dice rolls with my anti-tank shooting, and then you just capitalized on it huge. So win for the Germans. Congratulations to Vin. Hopefully.
Totenkopf for 3-0.
Yeah, they are actually. Yeah, you haven't lost with them yet, have you?
Yeah, not yet.
So yeah, I'm gonna have to do something about that. I'm gonna have to make a nasty list and just put your guys back in their place. I hate losing to you so bad, Vin. So we'll be back again. Yeah, we'll be back next week. We're past the holidays now, so we'll be back on our usually 1-2 games a week schedule. I actually got some Americans coming in, I think on the weekend, so I'll probably film another battle report with my buddy Neil. And then after that, we might do a test game for Hail Caesar, maybe next week or the week after. So we got some stuff coming up for you guys, maybe 1 or 2 games a week. Then once Christmas hits, I don't know, we'll see if we can get a couple more out for that as well. So thanks for watching. Like or subscribe, all that jazz. We'll see you guys in a couple days.